How do I turn this thing around? You have way too much fun with the intro music.
I love our intro music, Steve. I'm not gonna
Really?
lie.
I can't tell.
Do you remember how hard we worked for that?
Yeah, we did.
We did. That was awesome.
We probably spent too much time on that, but
I don't know. I think it was worth it.
Yeah. So how do we turn this thing around? What
are we turning around? I mean, are we like talking about the Starship Enterprise here? Are we talking about the Titanic? Are we talking about my Toyota Camry?
Are we talking about the lady in the SUV at the store today that I saw do a 16-point turn?
And then there was a driver's ed story coming.
And then I'm like, come on, lady, I fall for the stereotype. And then the turn is finally completed, and she had a long gray beard. Yeah, it was a guy. So
okay.
Sorry, ladies. They're probably actually better at maneuvering in the parking lot than us guys. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So how we turn this thing around? I'm going to throw out a term.
Okay.
I don't know if I've ever heard it before. I just made it up, but slump busting.
I've heard that before.
No, I'll tell you what you have heard before.
Oh no.
You've heard mutton busting. Which, for those of you that don't live in rodeo country, mutton busting, I don't know if they still do it, but
they do.
I used to love mutton busting. It's
where the town I live in, we got rodeos. It's alive and well.
Yeah, so it's the little kids are riding the sheep.
Mm-hmm. It's high quality entertainment.
It is. Is that what you were thinking of when I said slump busting?
No.
You were thinking of tub thumping.
Tub thumping, yes. Well, that's actually a good slump busting song. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never going to keep me down.
That's true. They're talking about turning this thing around.
Yes, they are.
Getting out of a slump, not giving up, not quitting.
And that's a big key to slump busting is that just that attitude. Not going to give up. I almost rickrolled everybody. Never going to give you.
I'd say we're pretty good at slump busting.
I think so.
We actually help each other with slump busting.
Yes,
probably help.
I don't know.
We're not going to keep score here, but
we have that symbiotic relationship where we do that.
That's one technique that is very helpful for getting out of a slump, is if you have a trusted friend or a trusted advisor that you could talk to. Because I feel 100% confident that I can go to you, Nate, and say, I'm in a little bit of a funk here.
Yeah.
And
that
I'm not going to
mutual.
I'm not going to be judged. In fact, I'm going to be coached. That's what's going to happen.
Can I throw something in here that may be a bit of a hot take?
Ooh, yeah. Is it going to cause controversy?
It could a little bit.
More so than, hey, lady, what are you doing in that 16-point turn?
Well, we're sticking with the idea of slump busting. And, we're doing this for parents of performing athletes and teens, and often they end up in a slump. They're not playing as well, not performing as well. They didn't get the part or the role that they wanted. So they can be in a bit of a slump. Here's the hot take, though. Sometimes as parents, it's not necessarily going to be you that gets them out of it. And that can be hard, because as parents, we want to be that for our kids. We want to be the person they go to get out of a slump. But it's like you and me, we work well with each other because we have that kind of relationship. Your kid may need somebody other than you to help them break out of a slump. And, like when I was in my master's, most of my research was done on significant non-parental adults and the role that they could play. That's kind of why we ended up in, where we're at with a lot of this stuff anyway. But sometimes it's having that trusted other adult that can be that. It's a coach. It's, possibly a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, somebody they're close to, and somebody you trust. It can be somebody other than the parent that may need to get them out of the slump.
This is why it's so critical that teens have some strong relationships with adults. and even other friends,
mm-hmm.
because they're going to go somewhere, and that somewhere or go to someone, and that someone is either going to help them get out of the slump, or maybe they just will wallow in misery with them, which would be unfortunate.
It would be. And I don't want to turn it into a discussion on coping strategies, but that may be something that we go back to later, because that, as the parent, now you can step in, and that's the kind of thing you could kind of coach them on. It's like, okay, you're in a slump. How do you want to handle this? What's the best way for you to cope with this? Because a lot of kids will kind of duck and hide, and they won't, have a confrontation with, who they need to, have the conversation they need to, because it's easier to disappear into your device or a video game or your girlfriend or boyfriend and feel better, but not ever make any progress. And I think getting out of a slump is like, that's what you need, progress, some kind of progress.
Right. So what are some practical tips for getting out of a slump? Like, what do you do if you feel yourself in a rut, in a funk, in a slump?
Well, I'll be honest with you. For me, it really starts with reminding myself of what I can control. My attitude, my effort, because usually what puts me in a slump is that I'm focused way too much on something I can't control. I might have partial control over it, but those are even more frustrating sometimes. So for me, it's just the step of, okay, what can I control here? And then start trying to take action on some of those things. And then that's where you get into some of the ideas, like even just going for a walk. I'm just going to go take a 30-minute walk out, and the weather's really nice now. And so you could go out and take a walk. I think that might be something good to do. And I control that.
Well, that reminds me of what, one of two parts of my personal decision filter, which is what is my present attitude and level of effort. And that sometimes is a hard question for me to ask myself if I'm in a slump, because when you're in a slump, you're in a slump. And so maybe that's not the most fun question, but when I ask myself that question, which I do every day, one way for me to get out of that slump is to increase my effort level and also to improve my attitude. So I have to be really honest with myself and say, hey, does my attitude stink right now? Am I in the middle of a pity party? Do I have the blame thrower out? Am I complaining? And if I am, I can shift that, and I automatically will feel myself wanting to improve my effort level and then climb out of the hole. Another good one for me is asking myself, what's the next best decision? And this is just based on the idea of, okay, instead you're in a slump, sometimes it feels like this overwhelming, crushing feeling. And, people describe it as overwhelm or being overwhelmed. So what is the next, back to controllables again? What is the next best step or decision that I can take? What's a decision in action? So
that's a great question.
Even if it's just one step, like that's how you can create some momentum. I just thought of another one, Nate, too, and then you can hit us up with some more. Re-examining your purpose. Like you and I, we have purpose statements that we've created. Reading that purpose statement, if I were to read my personal purpose statement, it is very empowering. It is very uplifting. It is very inspirational. And if I read it and then looked in the mirror and it's like, well, wait a minute, that's not describing this person that's hanging out in this slump. So let me be more of this person up there. What will it take for me to be there? And then just go, do one thing.
I like that.
What else do you have?
Well, there's a question that I would love to throw out here, just for you to see what you think about it. Is there value in trying to figure out what's the cause of the slump?
I think so, because what if we could do something in advance? Like what if we could launch a preemptive strike and avoid slumps, or do something that makes it very unlikely to have a slump. I do have something.
Which is?
Because I now use this. Because I don't like being in slumps. Do you like being in slumps?
No.
You like going up to the plate and going 1 for 28?
No, that's not good.
After you just, we're batting 500, and then now all of a sudden you're batting below the Mendoza line. Okay, so, and this definitely fits into the category of it's a remix, because you will find this all over the personal development world. But this is something that I do daily because I did this to get out of slumps. And it really dawned on me, why don't I just do this every day then? So start doing this every day. And then it's like, oh, wow, this is wild. The slumps aren't showing up. I'm more consistent. This habit is really serving me, empowering me. So what I do is, first of all, if I feel myself, I'm not going to speak as if I'm in a slump. I'm going to speak as if I'm preventing the slump.
Okay.
So I like to get a change of venue or change of location or change of environment. So I do a lot of walks, not do this in my normal place. And this, for example, if I'm in my office, like I am right now, my home office, I wouldn't go in there and do this every day right there. One day I'll go in the backyard. Right now, that's great because our fall temperatures are they're perfect for me. Or I'll do this on a walk, or really you could go anywhere, but I move locations. Then the next thing I do is I ask myself, what are 3 things I'm grateful for today? So right now, and this is constantly changing. So I'm not just doing this trite list over and over again, repetitive. It's like I really try to think of new things, and it's amazing how many things there are that we can be grateful for. And what that does is I'm filling my brain with all of the good chemicals, the dopamine, the serotonin. The reward center is getting hit, and I'm thinking about all that I'm grateful for. And then I ask myself an additional question, which is, what is something that I'm doing well now? You could also do 2 things, 3 things. But the idea is, what am I doing well right now? And it's just a little pat on the back. But this changing locations, asking yourself what you're grateful for, what am I doing well? This is an energy shifter. This is a mood changer. And it gets me ready for the day. And one of the real benefits is, besides those good chemicals flowing into your brain, you also lower the stress hormone, the cortisol. And so you have a little addition subtraction thing going on. And it's a slump repellent.
It's like the off spray for slumps.
Yes.
I like that. I think that's a good idea.
I love it. It's
what do they say? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Yes. I think that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to approach slumps. If you get in one, there's definitely some things you can do, but even just doing that, if you're in a slump, can also help you get out of the slump. So it's something you can do while you're in one, as well as to prevent more in the future. It gives you a great baseline. I really love that idea, Steve.
And this works for me. Something might work for someone else, but I think an important question to ask is, am I repeatedly finding myself in a slump?
Yeah.
And if you are repeatedly riding that roller coaster and you're finding yourself in these down moments, and it's not a situation where you need professional help, because it really, we haven't even brought this up, but it could also mean that there's some type of mental health issue that you might need to seek some professional help.
Possibly.
But if you're finding yourself in that up and down, what can I do to avoid going into the the pit.
Activity is always really good.
So I guess what we're saying is how you turn this thing around is the answers to that can also help you to never be faced with that situation of having to turn it around.
But I think, I'd love to point out too that like if you're in one of those slumps you talked about, a 1 for 28 if you're a baseball or softball player, or you haven't won a match or a game in a while, or you feel like you're missing everything, those can be a little bit tough. I think a couple of things to remind yourself there is that the past never predicts the future. Because often slumps come from just getting stuck in the feelings that we're doing really bad. And the reality is we're not doing that bad. We're just in an average period right now. And so a lot of it's just focus management. What are you focused on in the present moment? If you're focused on the fact you're 1 for 28, you're going to feel awful. But if you're focused on the fact that, man, I'm going to, I'm going to go 4 for 4 in one of these games, you can generate some more positive mojo. So a lot of it's focus management if you're trying to get out of one too.
I love that. I mean, now we're going down a side road here that's a very important side road, but I think this is why kids that have film of their performances, this is why I think it's so important to watch yourself doing things correctly.
Yes.
And to spend much less time looking at things you're doing incorrectly. There's still a place for that because you can see, okay, I'm doing this wrong, especially if you're talking about technique. Okay, I'm doing this wrong. I need to correct this. But then it's time to flush that and time to watch yourself doing things correctly. And so the kid that goes 1 for 28 after he was, 15 for 30, if you're focusing on the 1 for 28, you're telling yourself I'm a bad hitter, which that isn't true.
Yeah.
You're a good hitter and you're in a slump.
And I think you can tie those two, like the idea that you mentioned earlier. I think if that's what you help your kids to do is to create a practice like you had where it's like, okay, the things that you're grateful for, what am I doing well? If you can pull out film, if they have a highlight film that you've helped them make look at these times when you've been doing it well, watch this, because you're good. And you can remind them of that and then just show them the evidence. Brain doesn't argue with evidence. It can't.
I love it. You got the final party shot, Nate.
Love it.
That's it? Love it? That's the parting
shot.
Oh,
wait. I thought what I just said was the parting shot. No.
That was a pretty good parting shot. Can you top it?
Ooh, top it on the spot. Hey, parents, you're amazing. If you feel like you're in a slump with your kids, hang in there because you are doing some really good stuff. The fact that you're listening to this means you care and you're trying to figure things out. You keep with it and you're going to find a way to make good things happen. We love you, we believe in you, and we're proud of you, parents. On behalf of Steve Galley, I'm Nate Crandall, and we thank you, our loyal listeners, for tuning in to this episode. If you love what you're learning from the Stop Parenting and Start Coaching podcast, we would appreciate it very much if you would leave us a 5-star review and some glowing comments. We also encourage you to share this episode with your friends and family who are parents of athletes and performers. And if you want to explore further and see what Steve and I are creating to help thousands of parents, athletes, and performers, please visit our company's website at createtransformbecome.com. That's createtransformbecome, all one word, .com. There you'll find a growing number of resources to help you elevate your performance. Thank you again for your support, and we encourage you to create a magical relationship with your athlete and performer.